Welcome to Light Warrior Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Karen Kan, author of the #1 best-selling book, Sensitivity is Your Superpower: How to Harness Your Gifts, Fulfill Your Purpose, and Create a Life of Joy. And every week we have beautiful, beautiful people coming on the show sharing their wisdom with us. And before we get to our introductions, though, if you're new to my channel, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button if you are on YouTube. And then also, if you haven't gotten any gifts from me, I'd love to give you my free gift, which is the Sensitive Soul Empowerment Guide, the 3 ways of navigating your way to more peace, positivity, and personal power. And you can get that at sensitivesoulguide.com. Now, today I have with me one of my soul sisters, Rebekah Hogan. Let me tell you a little bit about her and what we're going to talk about today. So, she's the visionary founder of MarkahVida Coaching and Consulting. She's not your average self-mastery coach. We're going to be talking about self-mastery today. She's a transformative guide who blends science, energy, and a touch of magic, which we love here at the Academy of Light Medicine, to help you ignite your personal power. With a rich background in neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, psychosensory techniques like Havening, Rebekah offers a holistic approach to self-mastery and personal transformation. But don't let her scientific prowess fool you. Rebekah is deeply spiritual and believes that self-love is the cornerstone of compassion, abundance, and a life lived on your own terms. She's here to guide you on a journey that transcends the ordinary, revealing how you can bridge the gap between science and success to live a life of impact, ease, and abundance. She's ready to unlock the secrets to a high vibrational life and finally live your life at a 10. Then you're really going to love this. And by the way, Rebekah and I met each other at the Consciousness Conference in San Diego in early 2023, and it was just like, wow, soul sister. This is really great, and it's actually been a while since we've connected. So welcome, Rebekah, to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're going to talk about mastering the self, the science and magic of high vibrational living. And just, maybe take a moment and share with us your history, because not everybody, is the age of 2 and decides, well, I'm going to be a hypnotherapist and I'm going to do this and this and this. So how did that
Yeah,
all work out?
that was not my story. I spent, probably the first 15, 20 years of my life, I believed in magic, right? I believed that we could achieve anything that we wanted to. I believed that if I thought about something enough, I wasn't familiar with the term of manifesting at that point, but I knew if I visioned something long enough, I could make it happen. And then, adulthood entered in, and I started doing all the things that were expected of me, all the things that everybody said create success. Whenever I was 41, my kids were applying for college and they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do. And they were so worried about, like, making the wrong choice. What if I don't know what I want to do? And I was like, I'm 41 and I have no clue what I want to do for the rest of my life. Are you kidding me? I've been spending it really made me realize I had been spending the last 20 years of my life doing everything for everybody else. And I had lost myself. And so that was the beginning of the journey. I ran businesses, I worked in male dominated industries, constantly doing that, proving yourself, overworking, over pleasing, needing to take care of everybody. And I was just exhausted. I had spent, those 20 years numbing my emotions with alcohol because I didn't want to admit that I didn't like my life. And so the first step was to stop drinking, just so that I could be vulnerable enough to know how I felt. I was seriously ready to just run away from my life. And I remembered my dad had told me once, whenever I was like 18 or something, he told me, he said, the thing is, Rebekah, that if you don't change yourself, you're just going to be trading faces and names, and you're going to wind up in the same situation over and over again. And so as I sat there, like ready, like literally searching Zillow, figuring out like where could I go? What could I rent? I was like, maybe Airbnb, I could go to Europe for a couple of months on what's in my bank account, and I'll just figure out how to reinvent myself then. And I remembered my dad said that, and I thought, well, if I don't change myself, then I'll just be going right into another situation just like this. And the truth is that I knew my husband loved me. I was in a great relationship where I was totally supported. I just didn't know my boundaries. I didn't know what I wanted. So I went on a journey of self-mastery, um, which at the time I had no clue what that was. It was my midlife crisis, if we're honest. And it turned into an awakening. And it was through a very intuitive process. I didn't go out and seek coaches. I didn't start reading a million books. I just started going inward. And I started doing that thing I did whenever I was 15, envisioning what it would look like if I had what I wanted, if I acted the way that I wanted to feel. And it was one of those things where one day you wake up and, I'm daydreaming about who I want to be. And one day I wake up and realize I am her. And that was such an empowering moment, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long was
So,
that
so,
when you kind of
hmm?
realized that you had become your dream?
um, yeah, it was probably like about, in between 6 months and a year. And,
Mm,
I wasn't living the exact life, but I felt like
mm,
her. And
nice.
I was her inside. She was me the whole time. I just wasn't allowing myself to connect with that. And so this led me to, I found neuro-linguistic programming. It was a funny thing because COVID happened and the kids got sent home from school. They were all upset about missing their friends and everything. And I had offered to pay for them to go to a training, like to do any type of school, like study anything that they might have ever wanted to study. If you want to study magic, I don't care, just do something with the time. We're so blessed that, okay, fine, find the silver lining. We've got all this extra time. So I said, any course you want, I'll pay for it. I just want you to sit and have lunch with me, and I'll even pay you to tell me what you learned about it. They didn't take me up on it. So I
No,
thought I would lead by example. I know. I know. I was like, I wish my parents would have paid me to learn.
seriously, magic? Oh man.
I know. I know. And so I decided, well, I'll lead by example. And so I went on one of those online platforms, and I was looking up, I thought I was going to look up how to make apps. So I was looking up programming. And then all of a sudden I found neuro linguistic programming. I was like, neuro brain. I'm like, what? We can program our brains? Like, are you kidding me? So, so then I started studying it. And the beauty was is that it actually put language, words, and science around the entire process I went through intuitively.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it wasn't just me, right?
Right.
This is something that's available to everybody. And that's whenever I decided, oh my gosh, the whole world needs to know about neurolinguistic programming. And that put me on my path of really diving deep into all of the science behind it. And at the time, I didn't know I was going towards self mastery. The concept did not exist for me. Um, but really, that is the goal. Because when we think about what self mastery is, it's the ability to understand and control our thoughts, our emotions, our behavior, our habits, so that we can get the results that we want out of life,
Hmm.
right? It's how we can optimize ourselves. And so I
Sort
have
of like
people
be
come to
the
me that,
captain of your own ship, your soul destiny, right? To
yes,
have that impact
yes,
instead of life just happening to us.
right.
Mm.
Right. We are the creators of our life. And so to find that place of inner peace where you actually are in flow because you have control over your thoughts, because our thoughts create our emotions create our behaviors turn into our habits, and our habits create our reality, right?
Yeah, so a lot of people get stuck in that one place where they're like, well, wait a second, I have terrible thoughts, right? They'll
Right.
say that to me. I have terrible thoughts. I have very negative thoughts. How do I control my thoughts? And then they get really anxious that they can't control
Mhm.
their thoughts. So maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we have what we call your audience. I know, Karen, you're very familiar with the higher self, right? The spiritual self. We also have our conscious mind, which is our awareness, right? Our logical thinking mind, our awareness. That's the side of us that says, oh, I have these thoughts that I can't control. And I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm still saying it. and I don't want to say it, but it keeps happening. And so in between those two, we have our unconscious mind. And this is the part of our brain that is the autopilot. This is
Mm,
like the computer program. It's like an operating system in our brain. It's the one that's like what we say hardwired, that is running all of those thoughts
mm,
based on our past, right? It's based on from the time we were born. Most of these programs were installed by the time we were 8 years old of what things mean. And it's the meaning that we give things that turns into our thoughts, that turn into the emotions, that turn into the
mm,
behavior. And so it's going back and doing the work at the unconscious level to release the meaning. And so we need to go. I say all the time, you're going to keep getting the lesson until you get the learning,
oh yeah.
right? Because
Yep.
when
I
we
love
get the
that saying.
learning, yes, when we get the learning, we allow ourselves, it's basically like wiping out a belief,
Yep.
right? Because it's the belief that actually holds us hostage to the old behavior that we don't want, the self-talk, all of the things that doesn't feel good in our body. And so I'm I'm gonna just spoiler alert, okay? The 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 number one key to self-mastery is actually being fluid and flexible in your beliefs. It's
I
being
love
able
that.
to. Mhm. Yeah,
Yes, I love that.
yeah,
I love that because I'm very much into mastery, and I just over time, and especially recently, with all the shenanigans going on in the world too, it's like I often will say, you know what? I'm okay with changing my mind. And I will often say
yeah.
my current understanding is this, but that might change tomorrow with new information. So I love that you just said about this flexibility because as growing up, I was the most inflexible person I knew. If you said you were coming to my ballet recital and you didn't, I would have like a breakdown because you said you were coming, right? I was like super, super inflexible. And then now I'm almost like the other way. It's like, well, kind of depends. Like, does it serve people? Doesn't it serve people? Maybe I'll think of this and then tomorrow might be different. So that's fascinating. So thank you for saying that. I feel good.
Yeah. And that's the thing, it's because it's our belief that creates the judgment. And so
Yeah.
you talk about the shenanigans in the world, right? And right now that can feel really bad in our body if we allow it to, right?
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't feel good whenever, like, I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news. I
Smart.
I read so that I can understand what's going on in the world. I'll ask my husband, is there something new, some major crisis I need to be aware of? But I want to operate in a vibration of love all of the time, right? And whenever
Mhm.
you're constantly being bombarded by all of these things, it our judgment comes in, and that's the autopilot. And that judgment comes in, and then whenever that judgment comes in, we start comparing ourselves to other people. We start saying what they're doing wrong, what they should be
The
doing differently.
resistance. Oh yeah.
We create the resistance. And when we're creating resistance against anything, then that stops the flow of
Oh
everything else,
yes.
right?
Yes. Like the brakes,
And
a lot
yeah.
of friction.
And so if we can just suspend the belief for a minute, because I don't want to be right at the sake of feeling bad in my body,
Mm,
right?
mm. Yeah,
I
that's a
would
that's a
rather
toughie
be
for
wrong
men.
and feel good.
Mm. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there's a saying from, and he was an NLP guy too. T.R. Becker used to say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Yeah,
And that really struck me. I was
exactly.
like, sometimes I want to be right.
And that's natural. And that's natural because as we understand how our unconscious mind works, the main purpose is to keep us safe, right?
Right.
So there's our definition of safe. And so how we were raised will strongly influence
Mm.
what we need to feel to be safe. And sometimes that's right. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I think that right part is a tough one, like dealing with some, old family stuff about, well, you're right, or I'm right, you're wrong, and all this polarizing stuff. And so the judgments, slip out of my mouth. Right.
Mhm.
And then,
Exactly.
luckily I have the wherewithal to go, hmm, yep, that was a judgment. And work on it more on the fly than it used to be.
Yeah,
So certainly I'm far from being perfectly non-judgmental. But I have this desire to, because I know that like what you're saying is like there's so much more peace when the
mhm,
judgment you're like, in the big picture, like if we consistently go, well, they're wrong, they're stupid, they're whatever, whatever, and we're this or that, it feels very harsh to me right now. It feels like a big block. It feels just not fluid and not flowy. And at the end of the day, being like that, I wasn't getting my way anyway.
exactly. Exactly. And it doesn't feel good.
Nope.
And I like
They
to
don't like how
step
it
back.
how it feels for them either.
Right. And the thing is that if you step back and if you were to pull yourself out of that interaction right then, and you step back and you pull yourself out above it, and you look at all of the scenarios and all of the possibilities in the world, both people can be right. And both people believe that they're right. So who are we to tell the other person that they're wrong?
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
like I think
even
Deepak
when we
Chopra
look at
mentioned
colors.
that about
Yeah,
people are doing the best they can from the level of consciousness they're at. So, you know,
yeah.
that's their right, and my right is different from their right.
Yeah. And the resistance comes, the stop of flow, the disruption of energy comes whenever we feel that we need to impose our beliefs
Hmm.
onto other people that are resisting, because you have that, push pull, and whenever someone pushes against you, you're like pushing back against
Yep.
them,
Natural.
right?
Want to do
Yeah,
that.
that's very natural reaction. I actually heard a story the other day. I was in a training and we were talking about that, how whenever something pushes against you, your natural reaction is to push back. And he said that the trainer said that he had a Buddhist monk in his audience, and he was in the past and he was talking about this concept. And then, he kind of paused for a second, talked about something else, and then went up to the Buddhist monk and said, "Put your hand up." And the guy put his hand up. And then the trainer pushed against the monk's hand. And the monk pushed back. And as soon as he pushed back, he goes, "Oh, I knew I wasn't supposed to do that." Because he knew it was supposed to, you
Right.
just diffuse the
Yield.
energy
Yeah.
whenever you don't push back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's we actually I'm a kung fu student, and we actually have a little thing called push hands, right? And the idea is we're standing close together, kind of in a horse stance, and we're pushing each other in various places, and the goal is to stay stable, but also fluid. So if somebody pushes, you're like letting the energy dissipate, and you stay stable, you stay upright, and then, when it doesn't work well, you fall over. It's the same kind of thing.
Exactly. And and that's the thing, is that if you're too rigid,
Yeah.
right? If you're too rigid, then you will fall over. I had a huge, I'm constantly getting like, I'm just going to call them downloads, they're awakenings. They're
Yep.
things that open your eyes up to new expansion of perspective. And I had been having a silly argument with my husband, which we do these things. And I was so frustrated at him because I was like, why can't he just be positive? Why does he have to go straight to the worst case scenario every freaking time? And I'm outside and I'm like, I'm fuming because I had been trying to diffuse, trying to diffuse, trying to diffuse, and he wasn't having any of it. And so now I'm just like, then I blew up and just said, I'm not taking your crappy energy. And now I'm in his crappy energy. And I go outside and I'm like, I'm going to journal on this. And so I start journaling, and I'm looking at the palm trees outside, and I'm looking at this one palm tree that is bent like towards the direction that the sun normally sets. And I was like, why can't he be more like the sun or like the palm tree, leaning into the sun, the positive energy?
Mm.
And in that moment, as I'm thinking this, people just need to lean into the positive energy. And then I heard in my head that palm trees don't lean towards the sun. That's not why they're leaning. And I was like, what? So I Google, like, why are palm trees bent? And they said, well, you might think that they're leaning towards the sun, which all plants naturally do to some degree. However, the palm trees that are bent, they're bent because they don't resist the wind. So they're actually bent because they're leaning into the direction of the exact thing that can ruin them,
Wow.
right? So hurricane winds, palm trees withstand hurricane winds because rather than being rigid and pushing up against it, they lean into the direction that it's flowing. And that flexibility is what allows them to thrive.
I
And
love that story. Oh,
yeah,
that is so cool.
that's when I realized like it's about leaning in. This is the true, like, in self mastery, when we can lean in. When something doesn't feel good, rather than just saying, this is my truth and pushing against the other person's truth, saying, okay, what lesson do I have to learn? What is the gift here? Because emotions are just signals that something isn't in alignment in your life, right? So if
Mhm.
I'm feeling an emotion that I don't like the way it feels in my body, that is a gift to lean into, like that palm tree, right? I'm not going to be rigid and push against it because it can break me.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm going to lean into it and see what the gift is, because that's going to elevate my awareness and my perspective of life, right?
Mhm. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I was very much in resistance of life throughout most of my life until, very recently. Because I just kept thinking there must be a right, there must be a way to do life, and of course that was just that part of me that was just trying to keep me safe, like you said, to not be hurt. So if I did
Yeah.
everything perfectly, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So if I did everything perfectly and didn't get in trouble, then everything would be fine, right? But I was miserable, trying to be
Yeah.
this perfectionistic, whatever, not allowing myself to make mistakes, not having any flexibility at all about anything, really. And it's so true what you're saying about the judgments, the beliefs, um, it really can be that part of us wanting to keep us safe, but at the same time, really ruining our lives as well.
It's actually, yeah. It is the thing that we want to avoid the most, that we think that we're trying to protect ourselves against, that actually puts us in situations where it's self-fulfilling prophecies, right?
Uh,
And it goes back to that energy thing, right? Because if you're not for it, then you're against it, and you're putting the energy into the thing that you don't want, which
right.
means that you're going to attract the thing that you don't want.
Right. The more you resist something, the more energy and attention you're putting into it, resisting it. I see it all the time with politics. Not really into politics, but somebody will really hate a candidate, right? And they put so much energy into hating that candidate and making fun of it. My brother was doing this in Canada. He kept, I won't say the politician, but he kept, listening to YouTube after YouTube videos making fun of this politician. And not once did he listen to anything to the guy he does like. I don't even know if he does like anybody, but he kept listening to stuff of this guy that he did not like and he couldn't stand, and they were all making fun of him. I'm like, dude, like I felt like saying, dude, you're helping us manifest exactly what you don't want by paying so much attention to what you don't like.
Well, and it goes even further than that, because if you look at that, that resistance, right? If he's pushing, making fun of that, then that means that the person that likes that politician is going to get stronger in their defensiveness of the
Mm,
stance, right? They're going to
right.
become more rigid. So the more you push, the more they're going to push. And that's where you get so far out of balance, because now they're both so energized in their beliefs, right? That now the polarity between them becomes so far apart that they can't
Mm.
see the bridge between.
Yes. Oh boy. Well, I mean, people say, okay, well, Rebecca, self-mastery sounds great. So exactly how do I do that? Are there steps or what?
Yeah. I mean, it's there definitely there's key components to it, right? And the first thing is to recognize what you want differently in your life. You recognize what's not working, because awareness is the first key. Because if you're not
Mm,
aware, then you don't think that you have a problem, right? And our
mm,
unconscious mind wanting to keep us safe, we have comfort in our discomfort because it's what our unconscious mind knows.
yeah.
And that's how it's operated for so long. So we actually have to be very uncomfortable in our discomfort to want to make the change. So that's
Wow.
the first step, right?
Wow.
We
Is
have to
that
create the
awareness?
dissonance. Yeah, and to create the
Huh.
dissonance, because if you don't see the need, why would you do it? We've heard this saying our whole lives:
Hmm.
if it's not broken, don't fix it, right?
True. Yep.
And so if you don't see how it's a problem in your life, and you're not really aware of all of the ways that it's a problem, then there's no reason to put the energy into fixing it. And
Hmm.
your brain, your unconscious mind, wants to keep you in that safe space because it also works off of the path of least resistance and lowest energy.
Mm,
So your unconscious mind wants to do what's easiest too. And
yeah.
so creating new habits, new beliefs, just the unknown, oh my gosh, right? Its job is to keep you safe. And so this idea of doing something new and something unknown is scary, right? It can't guarantee your safety. And
Right.
so we have to get uncomfortable, and then we have to vision what it would be like whenever we achieve what we want to achieve, because now we give our unconscious mind the hope, right? We say, no, 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 this is where we're at. And look at how bad it could get if I stay here. And then we
Mm,
say, but imagine if we had this. It's
mm,
kind of like whenever you see something that you want, like if you look at a new car, whatever, when you're driving your car, you're fine. You're like, car's working fine, whatever. And then you go shopping and you just like decide to stop into the dealership and you test drive the new Tesla or whatever. You test drive a new car, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, my car doesn't have that. Oh, my car doesn't have that. Ooh, these seats feel good. Oh, look at, the distance, the range, the gas mileage, the this, that. All of a sudden what you have is horrible, right? And you have this vision of what you want now. And this
mm.
is how you decide, okay, this is when the decision starts happening, that I need that new car. But the truth is you don't need the new car. You
Right.
don't, unless it's broken, unless it's draining you money and everything. But our brain works the same way whenever it comes to
Mm,
change. So those are the first two steps.
okay.
And then after that, we need to release negative emotions, because our brain stores our memories in two ways. It stores our memory in a linear fashion, just on a timeline, right? And it also stores our memories by the emotions.
Mm,
So it says, oh, anger, put it in that pile. Anger, put it in that pile. Oh, sadness, we're going to put over here. And if we don't clear that out, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so if you imagine all of that same emotion being strung like a
like a
strand of,
pearls. Yeah.
right? Yes, like a
Right,
strand
right.
of pearls. Like you have the first event, it's just a tiny little bit of anger, not a big deal. Next time, maybe a little bit bigger, another small one, and then you have a really big one. And you keep adding them on. If you don't release them after a while, and knowing that things are passed down generationally through ourselves. We know science
Mm,
teaches us this now.
yeah.
And like trauma, the energy of that is passed down in our cells. we also know that just from the beliefs of our parents, it's passed down energetically in the thoughts and the beliefs. And some people believe in past lives, right? And so if you imagine your soul carrying all of this weight of how many generations of this emotion of anger, you don't have a little choker necklace that looks cute and dainty. You're walking around with, like, a couple of pythons you have to around your neck weighting you down. And so the key is to take and go back to that first event, that if you were to just cut that strand and all of those pearls just fell to the ground individually, each one would be easy to deal with, right? And so now they no longer hold the collective charge of all of
Mm-hmm.
them being tied together. So
Mm.
that's the first step, right? We need to clear all of that out, because it just makes it easier for us to look at individual things that really have affected us,
Right.
have created the beliefs, the judgment, that create the thoughts, that create the behaviors, right? So we do that. And then the next step is we need forgiveness, because we hold on to things so much. And
Mm.
it's when we hold on to the anger, those things against people, against ourselves, even in an individual way, even now that we've released the emotions from being tied together, it can still create resistance in us, right? Whenever we're still holding grudges. And so we forgive. We forgive other people. We forgive ourselves, because we recognize that, as you said earlier, everybody is doing the best they can with the level of consciousness in which they're existing in that moment. And so if we recognize that, then and I'm sure I've heard it a million times, forgiveness is a gift to ourselves, not to the other person. We're not saying that their behavior is okay. We're not saying it's right. We're saying that I release this connection of this resistance between the two of us. That's all. I just
Mm.
release the connection, which I'm really saying is, I'm no longer letting you control my life.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying when we do forgiveness. So we do that. And then if we need to, then we can go in and we look at individual events that are still lingering, that have created traumatic responses in our body. Our brain stores traumatic memories to keep us safe. This was great when we were, being chased by mountain lions, and we needed to know what it sounded like when they were coming up in the distance, what it smelled like, what it felt like. We needed to know those things.
Mm.
But today, the same way that our brain stored trauma then, our brain will store things that really aren't a threat. It will store
Mm.
it as trauma,
Wow.
because it's
Wow.
perceived threats. It's perceived
Right.
threats. So it could be a threat on your reputation, and your
Yep.
brain will store it as trauma.
Yep.
It's anything that is significant to you that you have a fear that you're going to lose, and you have no way to escape it. Your brain can store it as trauma.
Mm.
And that trauma is always sitting there on the surface, waiting for any sign of anything that remotely reminds your brain of this. And as soon as it sees it, feels it, hears it, smells it, tastes it, it pops up and puts you in fight, flight, or freeze, which immobilizes you, right? I mean, that takes you totally out of flow. That's when all the cortisol starts flowing. This is when
Mm.
we are no longer able to make good decisions, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the scary part is that so many people live in this constant state of
Oh, I was
trauma.
addicted to it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was absolutely addicted to that stress thing. I mean, that's how I ended up with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome because I was just addicted to that because it was like, well, my self-esteem, I know you teach and talk a lot about self-love, but my self-esteem was that I didn't really love myself fully because I wasn't perfect. So yeah, so I judged myself and all these different things, and obviously, I needed that experience to completely be sick in order for me to get to that point of awareness to forgive myself, to let go of judgment of myself. And yeah, and they say the rest is history. So very, very different. So many people are going through this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so here's the good news. Is so you said you needed to go through that to get to there. And that's because of where you were at in your level of consciousness in that
Right.
time frame,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
And
It was a
here's the
blessing and a
beautiful part.
gift.
If Oh, for sure, everything happens for us.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer myself that everything happens for us. And when we believe that, then we allow ourselves to get the learnings so that we don't continue to get the lessons, right? But I also want to say that when we understand that we don't have to hit rock bottom, we just have to let our brain think we're hitting rock bottom. We can actually lean in before we get to that point where we are so physically sick, where
Yeah.
we are so physically exhausted. And that's the beauty of understanding how our brain works and how it shows up in our body, how it turns into the energy in our body that allows us to do or not do what we want to be doing, right? So we
Mm,
don't have to go there anymore as long as we are aware and we make the decision to want to change it. So there's some great tools to get
yeah.
through
Let's talk about
and
that. Yeah.
actually like release the trauma on the neurological level. And that's the psychosensory techniques um, that are absolutely amazing. And it's basically like going in and erasing those triggers
Yep.
in your brain.
Yep.
And it is such a sense of freedom when we do that. Right. So now awareness, get uncomfortable, have the vision, and then we release the negative emotions, we forgive, we get rid of the trauma, and now we design. This is the best part, right? So
Mm,
now that we've released all of that stuff, now we get to choose, what are my beliefs? What are my values? And
mm,
we reverse engineer it based on what we want our life to look like.
mm-hmm.
So if I want my life to look like this, what do I have to believe in order for it to look like
Mm,
that? What do I have to believe about myself? What do I
yeah.
have to believe about other people? Right. And so we redefine our values and beliefs. And
That is
from
so
there,
cool.
everything gets easy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, because you can't have a belief that I'm a victim if you want to create this other life of freedom.
Mm-mm.
They're mutually exclusive. So it's really that
It's
choosing of the belief go, well, that doesn't serve me because it hasn't served me for X number of decades. So what do I need
yeah,
to believe in order to achieve this state of being?
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Now I know you've done some really neat work with groups and people, and maybe you can share your website and perhaps tell us a little bit about your app that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So my website is markavida.com. And that is spelled MarkahVida. So I'll give you a little bit of background on that. The company was started, I chose that name because um, I I got to that point whenever I was, realizing that I wasn't living my life for myself. And I decided that, we all have our own definition of success and we all need to live our life for ourselves. And when we do that, then we can be there for everybody else the way that we want to be. And so, Mark is a translation of the word brand. And
Hmm.
then Vita is the translation of life, right? So your life brand with a little bit of awe in it, right? So that's MarkahVida. And and I spell my name Rebecca with a K-A-H. And so it just made sense to me. It was a cute little twist. So MarkahVida is really about helping you define and live your life brand, right? Being
Mm.
true to yourself. And whenever you do that, you step into your own personal power and you are able to be the true creator of your life. My app, yeah. So my app is a daily journaling app that has I call it the bookends. And so it's a way to start your day and finish your day to put your unconscious mind to work for you. So whenever we go back to that first part of the conversation when you were talking about people say, like, I have these thoughts and I don't know how to not have these thoughts. This is one of the ways that we do that in their very, very simple journaling prompts that just redirect your attention for your unconscious mind. Because what I'll tell you about your unconscious mind is that it will prove you right. So if you want to be, if you want something, if you're like determined that's never going to work, I promise you it's never going to work because your unconscious mind is going to prove you right.
Yeah.
And if you say, you know what, this is totally going to work, your unconscious mind's going to prove you right because it's opening you up to a broader perspective to be able to see opportunities to make it work. Because I'll tell you, your conscious mind, we say, is your goal setter. That's your logical thinking that says, this is what I want. Your unconscious mind is your goal getter.
Uh,
So your unconscious mind is going to go and prove you right.
okay. Okay.
And
I like
so
that.
this is how the app works. And it's so simple. It's simple journaling prompts that just redirect your attention so that you don't have to do the work. Your unconscious mind is doing the work for you. Um, for everybody that's listening, I just added a new program on it that is about balancing. So it's about balancing the polarities or the dichotomies, right? It's a meditation that will help you understand, like, so if you're in judgment of something, if something's rubbing up against you and it's creating that negatively charged energy, to how do you release that? How do you let go of the judgment and put those into a place where they become in alignment in a way that allows them to exist together without the negative energy charge? And so I just added that. So if whenever you download the app, if you use the invite code balance, it will give you access to that. And so the
Ooh,
app
how
is the same. It's just
exciting.
MarkahVida. Yeah. And
Maravita,
so I'm super
MAR.
excited. Yeah.
KAHVIDA. So that's how we, and so we look for
Yeah.
it for on Google Play or Apple, right? And then if we use the code
Yes.
balance, we'll have access to that portion of it
Yeah.
as well. Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And it's an 8-minute meditation. You know, there's an introduction to it, and it's an 8-minute meditation. And I will tell you, if you go through and do that for 30 days straight, if you do this meditation and you just choose different areas of your life that are out of balance,
Mm,
where, you know, an example of one that I had for myself was around money. Money is a thing that comes up for a lot of people because money means safety for most people.
right,
So
right. Security.
money is something that comes up all the time. And for me, money was not mine.
Oh,
And I did this process because, and there's a big long story, I won't go into it, but this had been showing up my entire life. Every time I would achieve something, I would receive something, I would either lose it, I would give it away, or I would invest, but I never enjoyed it as if it was mine. And
mm,
so I've been living with this not mine, not mine, not mine. And the thing is for not mine to exist so strongly in me, it means that the opposite must also exist, which would be mine,
okay.
right? And so I went in, and this meditation will take you through taking these back up into creation to where they are actually one. And then how do you redefine them to bring them into your life where they are in balance with each other, where they
Mm,
no longer have that negative charge. And so through this meditation, I came back with mine. And instead of not mine, I came back with available to me.
oh,
And that was so powerful because it meant that, okay, if it wasn't sitting on this side with of being truly mine, then that was okay because it's available to me so I can enjoy it.
oh,
And it also meant that if I wanted it to be in this hand, if I wanted it to be mine, all I had to do was go get it because it's available to me.
right. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And so this is the work with this meditation will help people do to release those polarities where they're so far apart from each other, like those politicians, right? So far
Mhm.
apart from each other. So that's there, and I love that. And then I also lead retreats that really help people go through some of these processes of release so that they can get in touch with their higher self and just really have more sense of balance and inner peace in their life, learning these tools and just doing the releasing, the letting go.
Oh, that's great. So do you mostly do group stuff or do you do one-on-one coaching or?
No, I do one-on-one coaching. The release work, that process that I took you through, that is a one-on-one process because it's very intimate. It's
Right.
very personalized to each person because there is not a one size fits all. There's so many programs out there these days that is like, here's the formula, and that formula worked for that person that's selling the formula. And and so and it works for and it might work for a large amount of people to a certain extent. But whenever we're really talking about the programs at the unconscious level, there's some work that we need to do on an individual basis and to do that releasing and letting go. And so I do that private, and then I do group coaching programs that really help people. It's that suspending belief. It's helping them to loosen their grip on the beliefs. So for people that aren't ready to deep dive
Right.
into real, like the major transformation. So the individual coaching is typically going to be like a 12 or 16 week meeting once a week, doing real deep dives, real release work. The group coaching is for the people that aren't quite ready for that, but they want different results in their life. And so we go through processes to help them loosen their grip on their beliefs and start creating more change, more flow in their life, um, getting them prepared for doing that real deep level work.
Oh, that's great. And for the app, just to be super clear with people, when they download the app from the Apple Store or the Google Play, what's the cost, if any?
Oh, it's free. It's always free. I My personal mission in life is to normalize compassion,
Mm,
and I believe that we normalize compassion through self-love. We gain self-love when we stop judging ourselves, when we embrace gratitude, when we celebrate ourselves, when we recognize how we take care of ourselves and we allow ourselves to feel good about taking care of ourselves, it starts changing those programs in our unconscious mind that then allow us to start loving ourselves, allowing ourselves to receive, right? Believing that we are worthy of all
hmm.
abundance in life. So this will always be free because I want to make this accessible to the entire world.
That's beautiful. So markavita.com and also check out the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store on the smartphone. It's free there. And can you use this online on your personal computer or MacBook?
Yes, yes, you can use it in a web browser. My website has a link to it right in the top menu bar. Just says log into the MarkahVida app. You can get to it straight from there. I use it myself. I've shared that with you. I use it myself every morning and every night. I originally designed it for me, and it created so much transformation for me that I was like, I want to make this available to the world. Um,
Nice.
so it's there and I like using it. The mornings, most of the time I'll do it from my cell phone. And in the evenings, whenever I'm shutting down my day, I wrap up my day with going ahead and closing out the app and
Mm,
doing the journaling there because it sets me up for um, ending my day and setting my intentions for tomorrow. And then that means that it allows my brain to do my unconscious mind to do that moving
mm,
around and that heavy lifting while I'm sleeping so that when
nice.
I wake up in the morning, I'm ready to go. Right. This is
Let's
how we
go.
wake up with just feeling energized in the morning is when we do it at night. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. And then when do they put the code balance in? Is that when they try to log in or create an account
Uh,
in the app?
yep. Yep. You download the app, or if you go to the link on the website, it'll ask you if you're going to log in, or if you're new, you say I'm new, and then it will ask you if you have an invite ID, and
Ah,
you just put in balance, and then you say login, and then it will ask you for your name and your email address.
okay, perfect. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that gift. That is
Yeah.
fantastic, Rebecca. So you're also, I see, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, right? And that's the MarkahVida channels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're all just MarkahVida. It's all the same across all of them.
Yeah, that's really smart. Somebody didn't do that because she ran out of words. Um, and did you have any like last wisdom words for our audience before we close for today, Rebecca?
Um, it's really goes back to that concept of how do you want to feel in your body, and really allowing yourself to suspend or be flexible in your beliefs so that you can feel good in your body. Because when we feel good, when we are not resisting, that's whenever we allow flow. And this is when we can have life that is abundant with ease. And
Mm,
so listen to your emotions, acknowledge them, yes. And what do you need to let go of so that you can feel the way that you want to feel?
mm, beautiful. Thank you so
Mm.
much, Rebecca, for being here today. Just love connecting with you and love the work that you're doing in the world. So congrats.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on so much. I love our conversation.
Yeah, same here. And we want to also thank all of our beautiful Light Medicine and Light Warrior community for tuning in. We'll put the links below where you can get the app and the code and everything like that. So you'll have access to this beautiful, beautiful app that Rebecca has created. So without further ado, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Till next time.